Come on!
Get up, soldier!
Oh, damn. Hold! Set, go! Got one down in the hold! Load him up. 2 minutes out, visual inspection on the elevator.
Yes, Commander, on you.
Blackout and Squadron?
Look, it's the universe.
All set.
Wait!
So we open with the quiet, almost too perfect calm of Veldt, a stark contrast to the violence Kora and her newfound family have just left behind. Kora, Gunnar, Tarak, Milius, Nemesis, and even the now less creepy Jimmy land their ship, a craft that has seen better days but still holds its own, its landing gear groaning softly as it settles onto the fertile soil. The air here smells of fresh earth and growing things, a completely different scent than the burnt ozone and fear they've been breathing. As they disembark, the Veldt farmers, a sea of anxious faces, approach them. Their expressions are a mix of relief and utter bewilderment, trying to reconcile the stories of brave warriors with the slightly ragged crew standing before them. Gunnar, ever the pragmatic one, tries to cut through the tension with a reassuring smile, but the weight of the coming storm hangs heavy in the air, a low hum beneath the chirping of alien insects. Kora, however, doesn't waste time on pleasantries. She immediately gets down to business, explaining the dire situation. "The Motherworld is coming," she says, her voice low but firm, a gravelly whisper that carries the weight of past battles and future sacrifices. She lays out the cold, hard truth. They need to fight, and these farmers, who've only ever known plows and planting, need to become soldiers. It's a pretty big ask, right? Imagine your quiet agrarian life suddenly interrupted by a demand to pick up a blaster. It's like being told you need to win a marathon after only ever walking to the mailbox. The farmers, understandably, are hesitant. Their leader, a wise-looking elder with weathered hands, asks the obvious question: why them? Why this peaceful moon? Kora then drops the bomb, revealing her past as heiress, a high-ranking officer of the Imperium, directly involved in the assassination of the royal family. This revelation lands with the impact of a physical blow, a collective gasp rippling through the crowd. It's a classic move, revealing your dark past to gain trust, though it usually involves less regicide. But Gunnar, bless his heart, steps in to vouch for her, speaking of her bravery, her conviction, and the stark reality of their shared enemy. He's the PR man of the group, selling Kora's redemption arc to a skeptical audience. Slowly, painstakingly, the farmers begin to understand the gravity of their situation. The decision is made. They will fight. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about reclaiming their dignity and standing against a galaxy-spanning empire that views them as nothing more than resources. It's a classic David versus Goliath setup, except David's slingshot is a high-tech energy weapon, and Goliath has a really big spaceship that can turn planets into dust. The training begins, a montage of grit and determination. Kora, Nemesis, Tarak, and Milius take charge, each bringing their unique combat skills to the unseasoned farmers. Kora focuses on close-quarters combat and strategic thinking, her movements fluid and deadly, demonstrating how a smaller force can outmaneuver a larger one. She teaches them how to hold a rifle, how to aim for weak points, and how to use the environment to their advantage. We see the farmers stumbling, dropping their weapons, but slowly, surely, they start to improve. The rhythmic thud of their boots on the dusty ground, the grunt of effort as they learn to wield unfamiliar weapons, and the sharp, encouraging commands from Kora fill the air. Nemesis, with her tragic backstory involving the loss of her children to the Imperium, trains them in the art of the energy whip, a weapon as elegant as it is lethal. The whip snaps and crocks through the air, a series of bright, blinding arcs of energy, showcasing its potential for crowd control and dismemberment. Her instructions are precise, almost surgical, her eyes holding a fierce, protective glint. The farmers look terrified, but also awestruck as she demonstrates its terrifying power, the metallic hum of the weapon vibrating through the training ground. Tarak, the beast tamer, shows them how to utilize the local fauna, massive horned creatures of Veldt that normally pull plows, turning them into formidable beasts of war. The ground trembles under their hooves as Tarak teaches the farmers how to ride and command them, the deep guttural growls of the beasts adding to the symphony of war preparations. Milius, the seasoned rebel, teaches them guerrilla tactics, setting traps, using cover, and making every shot count. He's all about efficiency, about maximizing damage with minimal resources. The metallic snick of reloading weapons becomes a constant background noise. Even Jimmy, who seems to have undergone a bit of a software update, assists with tactical planning, his usually melancholic voice now filled with a strange, almost childlike enthusiasm for strategy, his metallic fingers tracing battle plans in the dirt. He's still a bit unnerving, but at least he's on our side now. Amidst the training, there are moments of respite, glimpses into the lives of these disparate individuals. Kora and Gunner's relationship deepens, their shared vulnerability forming a bond stronger than any romantic comedy could cook up. They talk about their pasts, their regrets, and their hopes for a future that might not even exist. The soft murmur of their conversations under the dim Veldt night sky, punctuated by the chirping of nocturnal insects, becomes a quiet counterpoint to the impending chaos. Gunner, who initially joined for the money, is now fully committed, his initial greed replaced by a genuine affection for Kora and a fierce loyalty to the Veldt people. He even cracks a few jokes, trying to lighten the mood, though they often fall flat, like a bad stand-up routine in a war zone. We also get glimpses into Nemesis's past, her quiet moments of grief for her lost children. She sculpts small figures from local clay, a silent tribute, the soft scrape of her fingers against the earthy material a tender sound in the grim preparations. Her dedication to protecting the Veldt children is fierce, a silent promise to herself that no other child will suffer as hers did. Milius, ever the stoic soldier, shares a few gruff but poignant words with the younger farmers, imparting wisdom gained from years of fighting losing battles. He's seen it all, and his weary eyes hold the weight of countless fallen comrades. The clinking of tools as they repair damaged equipment, the low rumble of machinery being repurposed for defense, and the steady beat of hammering as barricades are erected, all contribute to the growing sense of urgency and preparation. Just as the training reaches its fever pitch, a shadow falls across Veldt. Not a cloud, but something much more ominous. The Imperium's dreadnought, a leviathan of metal and destruction, emerges from the inky blackness of space, its sheer size dwarfing the moon, a truly terrifying sight. Its engines hum with a deep, resonant thrum that vibrates through the very ground of Veldt, a sound that promises obliteration. Admiral Noble, miraculously resurrected after his rather dramatic fall in the first film. Seriously, how many times can this guy come back? He's like a villainous cat with far more than 9 lives, is at his helm. His face, still bearing the scars of his previous defeat, is a mask of cold fury, his eyes burning with an almost supernatural intensity. He wants Kora, and he wants Veldt's green. He's not just a general anymore. He's a man possessed by a personal vendetta, his ambition intertwined with the Empire's thirst for resources. The dreadnought itself is a marvel of sinister engineering, bristling with weaponry, its metallic surface reflecting the light of Veldt's sun with a cold, uncaring glint. Its arrival is announced by a guttural, almost animalistic roar of its engines, a sound that makes the farmers freeze in their tracks.
Noble's plan is simple: overwhelm them. He launches wave after wave of ground troops, their landing craft descending like metallic insects, kicking up plumes of dust. The initial skirmishes are brutal. The farmers, despite their training, are still new to this, their movements a bit clumsy compared to the Imperium's seasoned soldiers. The crackle of energy weapons, the sharp hiss of plasma bolts flying through the air, and the shouts of commanders fill the atmosphere. Kora, Gunner, and the others are in the thick of it, trying to coordinate the defense, pushing back against the relentless tide. Turok's trained beasts charge into the fray, their roars mingling with the metallic clang of armor and the wet thud of impact. The ground trembles under their stampeding hooves. Nemesis, with her energy whips, carves a path through enemy lines, the crackling arcs of energy sending soldiers flying. The air fills with the smell of ozone and burning synthetic materials. Melius and the farmers he's trained utilize their traps, turning the Veldt landscape into a deadly labyrinth. Explosions rip through the ground, sending enemy soldiers sprawling, their screams echoing across the battlefield. The metallic shriek of destroyed droids mixes with the more organic sounds of battle. Jimmy, ever the strategist, uses his enhanced senses and tactical data to guide their efforts, pinpointing weak spots in the Imperium's attack. His voice a calm, almost detached presence amidst the chaos, like a very polite GPS system guiding you through an apocalypse. He even gets a chance to show off some of his upgraded combat programming, delivering a surprisingly effective series of metallic thuds and clangs as he dispatches a few unfortunate soldiers. The battle rages, a maelstrom of violence. The Imperium's forces are vast, but the Veldt farmers, fueled by desperation and a newfound will to fight, refuse to yield. They fight for their homes, their families, and their future. The sounds of combat are overwhelming, the staccato rhythm of blaster fire, the deeper boom of explosions, the clanging of metal on metal, and the cries of both pain and defiance. We see shots of farmers, their faces streaked with dirt and sweat, firing their weapons with newfound resolution, their eyes burning with a desperate fire. The ground beneath them is churned to mud and scorched earth. But Noble is relentless. He unleashes the harvesters, massive spider-like machines designed to strip mine planets for their resources, specifically Veldt's precious grain. These monstrous machines, their metallic legs scuttling across the landscape with an ominous scraping sound, begin to tear through the fields, ripping up the very foundation of the Veldt economy. The sight is heartbreaking, an assault on the farmer's way of life. It's like watching someone burn down your family home, but on a planetary scale. The machines emit a low, grinding hum as their massive drills churn into the earth, sucking up the golden grain. The farmers, seeing their livelihood destroyed, redouble their efforts, their cries of anguish turning into roars of pure rage. The true turning point comes when Noble himself, in his newly rebuilt and presumably upgraded body, descends to the planet's surface. He's here for Kora, and he makes it personal. His movements are faster, stronger, almost supernatural, a testament to the Motherworld's advanced medical and enhancement technology. He radiates an aura of cold menace, his gaze fixed solely on Kora. Their final confrontation is a masterclass in sci-fi combat. Kora, armed with her energy blade and her sheer will, clashes with Noble, whose enhanced strength and knowledge of her fighting style make him a formidable opponent. The metallic clang of their weapons reverberate across the battlefield, a brutal, percussive symphony of fate. The air around them crackles with raw energy as their blades connect, sparks flying like miniature fireworks. Each blow landed sounds like a thunderclap, each parry a screech of tortured metal.
Oh, settle in close, my dear ones, and let your imaginations take flight. For tonight, we journey to a world where courage shines brighter than any star. While brave Kora faced the shadowy Noble in an epic duel, far above in the sky, a different kind of heroism unfolded. Imagine, if you will, the gentle Gunnar, not a warrior by trade, but an accountant with a heart full of fierce love for Kora and a burning loyalty to Veldt. This gentle soul embarked on a desperate, secret mission aboard the giant, menacing dreadnought itself. He crept through its endless, winding corridors, a true labyrinth of cold metal, slipping past the Imperium soldiers like a whisper in the wind. His breath came in soft, heavy sighs, not from fear, but from the sheer effort and the immense courage it took. all around him, the ship hummed with a deep, constant thrum, like a giant sleeping beast, punctuated by the distant echoes of voices and the rare shimmer of blaster fire. Gunnar, with trembling but determined hands, placed his special charges, improvising and adapting as he went, like a clever fox finding its way. Who would have thought an accountant could be such a masterful saboteur? Every soft clatter of his footsteps on the metallic deck, every muffled boom of a charge he'd set, added to the exciting tension of his daring deed. Meanwhile, back on the planet, a whirlwind of bravery was stirring. The rest of our heroes fought with all their might to protect the precious grain and repelled as monstrous harvesters. Can you picture Turok astride his magnificent mighty beast, charging straight into one of those colossal machines? His spear struck with a great resonant thud against its metal skin. The beast roared a challenge to the sky, and Turok with practiced ease guided it, aiming for the harvester's vulnerable creaking joints. And fierce Nemesis, her energy whip flashed and crackled like a giant shimmering lightning bolt, cutting through the harvester's legs with searing precision. Melius and Jimmy, ever resourceful, worked together like two halves of a perfect whole, targeting weak spots, creating exciting diversions, and coordinating the brave farmers' attacks. The ground around them danced with smoke and shimmering fire, a beautiful chaos of courage and determination. The damaged harvesters whirred and sputtered, their drills groaning, filling the air with a sound like a giant sigh.
But at the very heart of this grand battle, Kora and Noble engaged in a truly breathtaking, desperate dance. Kora, though she might have seemed outmatched in raw strength, moved with the grace of a forest sprite, using her quickness and her keen understanding of Noble's weaknesses, finding every tiny opening. The constant clash of their weapons sang a metallic song, a powerful melody of their desperate struggle. She fought not just for Veldt, but for a chance at redemption, to mend the echoes of her past. Noble, filled with dark vengeance, taunted her, pushing her to her very limits, throwing her, slamming her against obstacles with heavy thuds that echoed through the air. Yet Kora, her face a mask of fierce determination, refused to break. She remembered the bright faces of the Veldt children, the sweet innocence she was fighting to protect. The crackle of her energy blade, the quiet grunt of her efforts, the ringing clang of Noble's powerful blows, it was all a symphony of powerful resolve and unwavering courage. Then, in a thrilling parallel, Gunnar, high above, planted his very last charges inside the dreadnought. He just barely escaped as the colossal ship began to shudder. And then, the internal explosions began. A series of muffled, booming sounds that shook the entire vessel, and the metal itself groaned in protest. Alarms blared, a piercing, insistent wail, and bright red emergency lights flashed through the corridors. The sheer scale of the dreadnought's final moments was a breathtaking spectacle of destruction. It cracked and buckled, its massive frame torn apart by explosions from within, sending fiery debris raining down onto Veldt below. The sound was immense, a magnificent, booming symphony of tearing metal and erupting plasma. The sky itself lit up with brilliant destructive energy, a dazzling, terrifying display. Finally, after a desperate last-ditch effort, Noble was defeated by Kora, his dark power seemingly vanquished for good. He crashed to the ground, utterly overcome, his eyes still burning with a fading fire before at last growing still. The immediate silence after his fall was profound, a sudden, eerie calm after the storm of battle, broken only by the gentle crackling of distant fires and the heavy breathing of exhausted, brave survivors. Kora, battered and bruised, stood over him, her chest heaving, the taste of victory both sweet and a little sad. The battle was won, my dears, but the cost was immense. The beautiful Veldt fields were scarred, the golden grain almost entirely gone. Many farmers who had bravely taken up arms for the first time had fallen. So the joyous cheers of victory were mingled with the soft, heartbroken sobs of loss. Kora, now more than ever a true leader, walked among the survivors, her heart heavy with both triumph and sorrow. The quiet was still occasionally punctuated by the soft creak of damaged structures and the distant, gentle cries of mourning.
In the aftermath, as the dust settled like a soft blanket and the fires dwindled to embers, the survivors gathered. The mood was somber, yes, but also filled with a new, quiet resolve. They had lost much, but they had gained their freedom, and a fierce, beautiful sense of community bloomed among them. The remaining heroes, tired but triumphant, began to assess the damage and, together, plan for the future. Young Jimmy, in a moment of unexpected wisdom, spoke softly but clearly of the strength found in unity, in coming together. Milius, with his years of experience, began organizing the recovery efforts, his wisdom shining through. Turok tended to his magnificent creatures, who despite their ferocity in battle, now nuzzled him gently, like giant loving pets. And Nemesis, ever watchful, kept a keen eye on the horizon, always ready for the next challenge, but a slight, almost imperceptible softening around her eyes hinted at a quiet peace. Kora looked out at the scarred landscape, a testament to their harrowing, exciting victory. The air still carried the faint, lingering scent of smoke and burnt metal, a reminder of the devastation. She knew the fight wasn't truly over. The Motherworld would surely retaliate someday. But for now, for this precious moment, Veldt was safe. The remaining grain, though meager, would be carefully rationed like precious jewels. The farmers, though wounded, would rebuild, their spirits unbroken. Their resilience was a quiet, powerful force, much like the gentle rustle of the wind through the remaining crops, a hopeful sound, a promise of regrowth. And so, Kora and her brave allies stood together, looking out at the rebuilding Veldt. They had faced the Scargiver and emerged victorious, but the shadow of the Motherworld still loomed, a distant challenge. The sacrifice of the farmers, the devastation of their home, and the sheer audacity of their rebellion would undoubtedly send ripples of courage throughout the vast galaxy. For the galaxy is immense, and countless other worlds suffer under the Imperium's heavy hand. Kora and her team, now hardened by battle and bound by an unbreakable loyalty, represented a beacon of hope, a small but significant spark in the oppressive darkness. Their journey was far from over, and the war for freedom, my dears, had only just begun. As the story ends for now, we see their determined faces, a silent promise of future battles and renewed hope. The gentle sounds of rebuilding, the soft clinking of tools, the murmuring of voices, and the distant, almost imperceptible hum of alien life returning to normal, all blend into a beautiful tapestry of quiet resilience.
As the echoes of battle fade, and the brave souls of Veldt begin the arduous task of rebuilding their scarred world, we are left with a powerful testament to the indomitable spirit of life. It's a poignant reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, when all seems lost, the tiniest spark of hope can ignite the fiercest courage. The sacrifices made, the bonds forged in fire, and the unwavering fight for freedom resonate deeply within our hearts, inspiring us to believe in the amazing potential within ourselves and in each other, to overcome tyranny and cultivate peace, even when the fields are barren and the future seems uncertain. Sleep tight, my brave little dreamers, and may your own dreams be filled with courage and hope.
The air on Veldt, usually thick with the earthy scent of the lumina grain and the gentle hum of rural life, now carried a different, far more anxious weight. Kora stood amidst the farmers, her face etched with a quiet intensity, as she introduced the strangers she had brought back. There was General Titus, a figure of weary authority, his eyes holding the ghosts of battles long past. Nemesis, stoic and deadly, her mechanical arms a testament to her tragic origins. Turok, with his deep connection to the land and its creatures, a quiet strength radiating from him. Milius, the young, fiery idealist, a spark of rebellion in his every movement. And of course Jimmy, the robot knight, a relic of a more honorable era, his blue eyes reflecting a deep, almost human wisdom. The farmers, accustomed to the slow rhythm of planting and harvesting, eyed these warriors with a mix of awe and trepidation. They were farmers, not soldiers, and the gravity of what Kora was asking them to do settled over them like a heavy cloak. It was a classic gather the heroes moment, but with a palpable sense of dread hanging over the heroes and the innocent villagers alike. Gunnar, bless his heart, tried his best to bridge the gap. He was always a bit of a nervous Nelly, but his loyalty to Kora shone through. He'd lost his family to the Imperium, so the stakes were personal for him too, even if his attempts at gravitas often landed with an endearing thud. He tried to explain the situation, the impending doom, but the farmers were mostly looking at Kora, their protector turned deliverer, and then at the motley crew of battle-hardened individuals, wondering if this was truly their only hope. Kora knew she had to be honest. She confessed her past, her true identity as Eris, the adopted daughter of Regent Belisarius, the very architect of the Imperium's terror. She spoke of her role in the massacre of her own adopted people, a confession that ripped through her with a visible tremor, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with a raw, guttural pain. The revelation hung heavy in the air, a gasp rippling through the small assembly. It was a bombshell, dropping like a sonic charge, explaining so much, yet complicating everything. How could they trust someone who had been so close to the monster they now faced? Her honesty, however brutal, earned her a fragile, nascent respect, a sense that she was truly fighting for something beyond herself, for a chance of redemption.
The Imperium, meanwhile, was not idly twiddling its thumbs. Admiral Noble, miraculously brought back from the brink of death through a horrifyingly intricate medical procedure that would make Frankenstein blush, was more determined than ever. His recovery was a testament to the Imperium's dark science and Belisarius's obsession with Kora. Noble, now a walking testament to sheer spite and imperial efficiency, interrogated the captured Veldt farmers, mercilessly extracting information about Kora and her destination. He learned about the Lumina grain, a precious resource that could feed entire armies, and immediately recognized its strategic value. This wasn't just about Kora anymore, it was about crushing a burgeoning rebellion and securing vital supplies. The stakes, already sky high, just got another booster shot into the stratosphere. Back on Veldt, the training began, and let me tell you, it was less montage of glory and more montage of grim determination. Kora, Titus, Nemesis, Turok, and Milius took on the monumental task of turning peaceful farmers into makeshift warriors. The farmers who spent their days coaxing life from the soil were now learning to wield blasters and bladed weapons. The clang of metal against metal echoed through the village, replacing the rhythmic sounds of harvesting. Nemesis, with her quiet ferocity, taught close-quarters combat, her mechanical arms slicing through the air with terrifying precision. Turok, ever patient, showed them how to use the environment, how to move silently, how to listen to the whispers of the land. Milius, full of youthful fire, instilled a sense of purpose and defiance, reminding them what they were fighting for. Titus, a strategist to his core, laid out defensive formations, explaining the cold logic of war. Kora, leading by example, demonstrated the harsh realities of combat, her movements a blur of efficiency and deadly grace. Every parry, every thrust, every spent energy cell was a desperate prayer for survival. The farmers, despite their fear, pushed themselves, their hands, once calloused from tilling, now forming blisters from gripping weapons. You could practically hear the collective groan of every muscle in their bodies as they tried to keep up. It was a crash course in how not to get disintegrated, and everyone was taking notes, often painfully.
The immediate goal was to harvest as much Lumina grain as possible before the Imperium arrived. The valuable crop wasn't just food, it was a bargaining chip, a source of power, and a symbol of Veldt's continued existence. The farmers worked tirelessly, their fear tempered by a growing sense of unity. They knew the Imperium wanted it, and they weren't going to let them have it without a fight. The Lumina grain, shimmering with an ethereal glow, became a beacon of their defiance. As the days blurred into a frantic cycle of training and harvesting, the bonds between the farmers and the rebels deepened. They shared meals, stories, and the unspoken dread of what was to come. Kora, usually reserved, found herself opening up, seeing the humanity in these people she was fighting to protect, understanding that her redemption might lie not in her past, but in their future. She realized that she wasn't just fighting Belisarius, she was fighting for a galaxy where people like these farmers could live in peace. Then came the telltale sign of doom, a distant ripple in the sky, growing larger, more menacing. The dreadnought King's Gaze materialized in Veldt's orbit, a colossal shadow blotting out the sun. Its sheer size was a statement, a chilling promise of annihilation. The ground beneath their feet vibrated with the silent power of its engines. Admiral Noble, having made a full recovery and then some, was back, and he was not pleased. His arrival was less a grand entrance and more a declaration of utter, unyielding war. He deployed ground troops, waves of armored soldiers descending in dropships, their heavy boots thudding onto the soil, each step a testament to imperial might. The air crackled with anticipation, a heavy stillness before the storm. The farmers, now armed and positioned, felt their hearts pound against their ribs, a primal fear mixed with the resolve Kora and her crew had painstakingly instilled. This wasn't a drill anymore. This was the main event, and everyone had front row seats to their own potential demise.
The initial skirmishes were brutal. The Imperium soldiers, disciplined and numerous, pushed forward relentlessly. The farmers, despite their training, were still outmatched in sheer firepower and experience. The first casualties were a sickening jolt, a cold splash of reality. The screams, the guttural cries of pain, the sickening thud of bodies hitting the dirt, it was all too real. Kora moved like a force of nature, her blasters spitting bolts of energy, her movements economical and deadly. She was everywhere, directing, fighting, rallying her forces. Nemesis was a whirlwind of blades and fury, her mechanical arms a terrifying extension of her rage. Turok, connected to the beasts of Veldt, commanded them with an almost spiritual understanding, turning the planet's fauna into unexpected allies. Milius, leading a small squad, displayed a surprising tactical acumen, his youthful enthusiasm now hardened by the harsh reality of combat. General Titus, a weathered commander, calmly assessed the battlefield, making crucial strategic calls,
always staying 2 steps ahead of the enemy. Amidst the chaos, Gunnar found his moment. He had always been the nervous farmer, the loyal sidekick, but as the Imperium pressed closer, threatening the very people he cherished, something shifted within him. He saw a group of farmers pinned down, vulnerable, and without a second thought, he charged, drawing enemy fire, creating a diversion. His eyes, usually wide with anxiety, narrowed with a fierce resolve. He wasn't a warrior, but he was a protector, and in that moment, he became a hero. He fell, taking a direct hit, but his sacrifice wasn't in vain. He bought precious seconds, allowing his comrades to regroup and push back. His death, a tragic but noble act, solidified the bond between the farmers and the rebels. It showed them that they were truly fighting for each other, a collective gasp echoing through the hearts of those who witnessed it. This wasn't just about saving themselves, it was about honoring those who had fallen. His final breath was a quiet exhale, a testament to a quiet bravery found in the most unexpected places. The battle raged, a symphony of explosions, blaster fire, and the cries of both friend and foe. Kora, her face grimed with dirt and sweat, pushed through the chaos, her primary objective to protect the harvested grain. The Lumina was not just food, it was hope, a symbol of what they were fighting for, and she would not let it fall into Imperial hands. She knew that if they lost the grain, they lost everything. The thought gnawed at her, fueling her resolve, driving her to push harder, fight fiercer.
Noble, from the bridge of the king's gaze, observed the ground battle with a cold, calculating gaze. He recognized the tenacity of Kora's resistance and ordered a full-scale ground assault. Dropships disgorged legions of soldiers, their overwhelming numbers threatening to engulf the small, desperate force on Veldt. The battle shifted from skirmishes to an all-out war, a tide of white armor washing over the makeshift defenses. The sound of thousands of boots hitting the earth was like a slow, deliberate drumbeat of impending doom, each step vibrating through the very soil. The fighting escalated into brutal, close-quarters combat. Nemesis, true to her name, became a living weapon, her mechanical arms a blur of razor-sharp edges. She moved with an almost balletic grace, each strike precise, each parry an extension of her unyielding will. She cut down Imperial soldiers with terrifying efficiency, a whirlwind of death, but the numbers were simply too great. She fought with a desperate fury, protecting a group of cowering farmers, her strength failing, her energy dwindling. Finally, overwhelmed, she fell, a silent, defiant warrior until her last breath. Her sacrifice, like Gunnar's, was a heavy blow, a somber reminder of the cost of this fight, the metallic clang of her arms falling silent, a stark punctuation mark in the symphony of battle. The quiet click of her systems powering down was a sound no one wanted to hear. Turok, meanwhile, engaged in a desperate defense of the Lumina clan silos. He called upon the massive horned beasts of Veldt, creatures of immense power and surprising loyalty, to aid in the defense. He wrote atop one, guiding it into the fray, a primal force against the technological might of the Imperium. The beasts roared, tearing through platoons of soldiers, their hoofs thundering, their horns goring. Turok, a spear in hand, fought with an almost spiritual connection to the land and its protectors. But even the might of Veldt's wildlife had its limits against continuous blaster fire and overwhelming numbers. He too was eventually overcome, sacrificing himself to detonate a series of explosives, destroying several Imperial transports and momentarily slowing their advance. The roar of the beast, cut short, echoed through the valley, a mournful sound that settled deep into the hearts of those who heard it. The resulting explosion, a fiery bloom against the bruised sky, was Turok's final defiant act, a massive boom that reverberated through the very bones of the planet.
Milius, seeing the tide turning, rallied the remaining farmers. He was no longer just a zealous young rebel, he was a leader, his voice ringing with a newfound authority, inspiring courage in those who were on the verge of giving up. He organized a retreat, pulling back to a final defensive line, his tactical mind sharpened by the crucible of battle. He directed their limited resources, making every blaster bolt count, every shield generator placement strategic. He was a general in the making, his youthful idealism now tempered by the harsh reality of command and loss. Kora, having fought her way through countless soldiers, now faced the ultimate confrontation, Admiral Noble himself. She knew he had returned from the dead, a chilling testament to Belisarius's determination. She had sensed his presence, a cold dread in her gut. She fought her way aboard the king's gaze, a desperate infiltration, determined to end him once and for all. The ship's interior was a maze of metallic corridors, the air thick with the smell of ozone and fear. She found him in the bridge, surrounded by his officers, his sneer unwavering even in the face of her fury. Their duel was a brutal dance of blaster fire and hand-to-hand combat, each strike fueled by personal vendetta. Noble, despite his previous defeat, was stronger, faster, fueled by a dark energy that seemed almost supernatural. He mocked her, taunted her with her past, reminding her of the horrors she had witnessed and the part she had played in them. He revealed the grim truth that her escape from his grasp was the very thing that led to his resurrection, a twisted irony. "You brought me back, Eris," he hissed, his voice a venomous whisper. "You gave me purpose again." Then came the true gut punch. As they fought, Noble dropped a bombshell that would shake Kora to her core. He revealed her true name, the name Belisarius had given her, Eris. But he didn't stop there. He revealed that she wasn't just Belisarius' adopted daughter, she was his daughter. The words hung in the air, a poisonous cloud, stealing the breath from her lungs. The crack of a punch, the clang of their weapons, all faded into a deafening silence in her mind as this revelation hit her like a supernova. Her world, already shattered, splintered into a million more pieces. All her life she had believed she was an orphan, a child taken in by a ruthless general. Now, the man she hated most, the man responsible for countless atrocities, was her biological father. The sheer horror of it, the sickening irony, threatened to break her. This was the kind of revelation that would send most people into therapy for about 500 years, minimum. Talk about a twisted family tree.
Despite the emotional devastation, Kora fought on, fueled by a renewed, desperate rage. She refused to let this revelation define her, to let it be her undoing. She channeled her pain, her anger, into every strike, every desperate parry. She managed to critically damage Noble, sending him sprawling. As he lay defeated, she knew she had to take down the King's Gaze itself. The Harvester ship, which contained all the precious Lumina grain they had fought so hard to protect, was docked with the dreadnought. In a moment of sheer desperation and strategic brilliance, Kora managed to overload its reactors, triggering a cataclysmic explosion. The ship shuddered, groaning under the immense internal pressure, its metallic skin screaming as it tore itself apart. The subsequent chain reaction ripped through the King's Gaze, tearing the colossal vessel apart from the inside out. The sound was deafening, a roar of twisting metal and exploding energy, a final, definitive declaration of Kora's victory. The dreadnought, once a symbol of insurmountable power, now fractured and tumbled through the atmosphere of Veldt, a burning funeral pyre for Noble and his legions. Kora escaped barely in a small escape pod, the fiery wreckage lighting up the night sky, a stark, violent beauty. The ground shook as the shattered remnants of the King's Gaze rained down on Veldt, massive chunks of metal crashing into the landscape with thunderous impacts. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burnt electronics, a grim testament to the battle that had just occurred. The surviving farmers and rebels emerged from their shelters, their faces streaked with soot and tears, their bodies aching, but their eyes holding a flicker of something new, hope. The immediate aftermath was one of stunned silence, then a collective sigh of relief, quickly followed by a wave of profound sorrow. So many had been lost. Nemesis, Turok, Gunner, their sacrifices weighed heavily on the survivors. The silence after the last explosion was almost more terrifying than the battle itself, a vacuum where the sounds of war had been. It was the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring.
Kora, reuniting with Milius and Titus, surveyed the devastation. Her victory felt hollow, tinged with immense grief. She had saved Veldt, but at what cost? Milius, his face grim but resolute, looked to Kora for guidance. He had seen too much, lost too much, but he hadn't broken. Titus, ever the pragmatic general, acknowledged their success but quickly turned to the future. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Imperium was still out there, and Belisarius would not forget this defeat. The remaining farmers, though battered, started to pick up the pieces, their spirit bruised but not broken. The sight of them tending to their wounded, clearing the debris, was a powerful reminder of what they had fought for. It was a testament to the resilience of the human or alien spirit, whatever the case may be. But just as a fragile sense of peace began to settle over Veldt, the universe delivered another unexpected twist. Admiral Noble, apparently less dead than previously thought, was once again brought back to life, his body reconstructed, his mind perhaps even more twisted and vindictive than before. This guy really does have more lives than a cat on a trampoline. This time, his report to Regent Belisarius was truly damning. He confirmed Kora's identity as Eris, Belisarius' biological daughter, and revealed her role in the destruction of his dreadnought. the news would undoubtedly send Belisarius into a rage, fueling his personal vendetta against Kora even further. The galaxy was not done with its Scargiver. Noble's chilling voice, now full of a cold certainty, delivered the news with an almost gleeful malice. The reanimation sequence was probably not covered by standard Imperial health insurance, but hey, when you're a despotic empire, you make your own rules. Back on Veldt, Kora, looking out at the rebuilding efforts, felt a profound shift within her. The revelation of her parentage, while horrifying, had also paradoxically freed her. She was no longer just a runaway, defined by her past mistakes and her adopted father's crimes. She was Eris, Belisarius' daughter, yes, but she was also Kora, the protector of Veldt, the leader of a burgeoning rebellion. She embraced both identities, understanding that her future lay in forging her own path, one defined not by who birthed her, but by the choices she made. She realized her path to redemption was not just about protecting Veldt, but about uniting the galaxy against the tyrannical Imperium.
With the immediate threat repelled, the survivors began to look beyond Veldt. Titus, Milius, and Kora discussed their next steps. They knew they couldn't fight the entire Imperium alone. They had to rally other worlds, ignite the spark of rebellion across the galaxy. Veldt had become a symbol, a testament that even the smallest, most peaceful communities could stand up to unimaginable power. The final scene showed Kora, her face no longer etched with just pain, but with a new, quiet determination, looking out at the stars. The fight was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, she had purpose, and with that purpose came a glimmer of hope. The galaxy was vast, but perhaps, just perhaps, Kora and her small band of rebels had lit a fire that would spread, consuming the darkness of the Imperium. The long journey ahead would be fraught with danger and loss, but they would not face it alone. The whispers of rebellion, once faint, were now growing louder, carried on the cosmic winds. The fight for freedom, for a better tomorrow, had only just begun. It was a powerful, if slightly exhausting, thought. As the echoes of battle fade and the dust settles on Veldt, we're left with a powerful testament to the indomitable spirit of defiance. Kora's journey, fraught with personal demons and unimaginable loss, evolves from a quest for self-preservation into a beacon of hope for a galaxy yearning for freedom. The sacrifices made, the bonds forged, and the courage found in the most unexpected places remind us that even against overwhelming odds, the will to protect what is good and right can ignite the flames of revolution. It's a poignant reminder that true strength isn't just about wielding a weapon, but about finding the courage to stand up, even when your world is falling apart. Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, delivers a relentless, action-packed conclusion to Kora's initial saga, deepening the character arcs and providing some truly epic battle sequences. While its narrative beats sometimes feel familiar, the film excels in its sheer visual spectacle and commitment to character-driven stakes, leaving us on a note of hopeful defiance. Does it successfully launch the next chapter of this sprawling space opera? Absolutely.